Hi everyone, I hope everyone is well. Today is the 6th of November. If you see this, it means that I've done my best to articulate something that obviously is very sensitive, because regardless what side you're on or not, it's very hard to see a middle message. Although I feel like the majority of my subscribers can see a middle message. So for example, just the Democrat followers that I have, probably a bit more quieter. Everyone's been very respectful on the channel. And in a way, I don't know if I can say that because it's always been the same people that support the channel that I've become, without asking who do you support, that comment on the videos. So it's a twofold. But what I want to say is that there's one side that's celebrating, okay, and I think it took until the early morning hours for everything to be gathered and collected. And I did mention there would be a bit of a delay. I think I mentioned it could be even 3 hours while everything is done. And I believe it's final now. So, I mean, I believe it's final. That Trump is elected the 47th president. If you go back to my readings, you'll find that that's what I was leaning on psychically, not what I wanted and not what I didn't want, what I was leaning on psychically from even my very first reading, before I knew, like, before this really got kicked off, where actually I think that was my very kind of first political read, where Duck is convicted, so what's next? And I mentioned in that it will come to a stage where you'll be like, how is this possible? So what I understand now is if he's elected, he can't do the time, or will he do the time until his inauguration? And it's kind of like that whole big thing about the crimes and stuff. I said suddenly you'll see like everyone's like, oh gosh, you know, this is really, really bad, and he needs to go to jail, and more like just build up of it. And I said you'll be shocked to see like how, yeah, in the end it's not going to pan out how you think. I've also referenced 37th president. I also referenced in my reads, we could see the cards, but we could also see things like the attempted A's, okay, that I predicted. I think some psychics did anyway, but I'm also saying that until late April next year, Duck really needs to be careful. Now, hadn't he got in, I want to say something. Hadn't he have got in, I can't even get the next message out because it's like Spirit says, you know, he was going to get in. What I was going to say in this message that I'm doing today, if he hadn't got in, is that him and Elon Musk were going to do something huge, to the point where he can influence the country even though he's not a president, and really run the public even though he's not a president. I could see that. That can still happen, but I could see him, like his voice was overshadowed. His voice was is overshadowing the right thing, even if the Democrats got in. Now, why am I saying this? And also, please understand, between now and the 21st, there's going to be some changes that happen, okay? We're going to see those changes unfold. Your neighbor, whether red or blue, okay, is a human. It might not be your exact neighbor, obviously, who has voted for who they believe is going to bring a better side for humanity and for maybe monies for the environment, like financial, I think is Trump, environment, more spiritual side, um, maybe more of a balanced stance in terms of international war is maybe, I wouldn't say Democrats, but maybe Camel would try to do that. But maybe right now the US feels they need a strong stance of the US having a strong leader with the current leaders that are, you know, we've got P in Rush and we've got Nitin in I, and they're not for humanity. So what would be best for the US, I've mentioned on the international front, and I've always said for the US, it doesn't mean for international. And maybe they felt like in the past 4 years, the finances have been very difficult for them. And so that's been their main thing. What I'm trying to say is whoever's voted, whether you've voted blue or red, you've voted for positive change. You see one party bringing that positive change in elements that are maybe more of a priority, or even elements that you believe this person will do the change and the other person wouldn't, okay, regardless, red or blue. The ultimate line of why people have voted, I can guarantee you the top 3 reasons, whether we take blue, red, or we remain as a purple, let's say, which I've said in terms of being neutral, is going to be very much the same. So can we hold space that what we want is the same thing? Okay. When you see someone who is, I should have probably got on camera for this, I really apologize. When you see someone who is, sorry, I've lost my chain of thought. Yeah, so when you might see a comment, let's say in my section, it might not be, and someone books up the courage between all the reds or all the blues to come in and say, hallelujah, or I'm really depressed, because I feel a lot of people, you remember I said a lot of the, especially Democrats, and it was also the Republicans, were really fearing, like it was exaggerated fear beyond, like, how are we going to get through this? 4 years is intolerable. I'm getting so many messages that I want to say, so I need to stick on the right track. Can you hold space for that person that's maybe a blue, okay, that's voted for blue for probably the very similar reasons that you voted, the ultimate goals, forget who you voted for, but see them as that person. So whether that person is Peter, Maya, you know, whoever it is, can you see them as Peter, as Maya, as opposed to a blue person or a blue dot or a blue vote next to a comment, as opposed to the username, as opposed to a human that probably wants the ultimate same goal as you and felt like the person they voted for is the person to do it. And not see, when you see a username, either duck or camel, okay? Try to, and if you try this, you're going to see what I mean by that. If you see a comment, all right, if you hear somebody try to speak. Now, I prepared what I wanted to say yesterday, actually, and I was going to do it, but it goes back to the amount of energy I'm putting on the channel with the issues that the platform is not resolving that I've raised. And so it's kind of energy being given out. And there's no growth apart from, thankfully, my subscribers, members, and patrons. And one of the things, this is the thing I really wanted to say, you know, you might be popping a celebration if you're red, but actually someone who voted blue could actually need that pop of a fat champagne glass more than you, or a hug more than you right now. That doesn't mean that in the street to accept violence. I would actually stay out the way of big gatherings for a bit, and probably the larger cities, or the cities where, you know, the duck is going to be in. I think it's also needed to say that Duck knows that he cannot run the way, or things that he might have done, whether corrupt or not, like they all do, the leaders, in the same way. So you need to hope that you've got a newer version of someone who has been humbled and who carries similar messaging, but new message of really for the people as opposed to self-enrichment. With that, I also want to say the reason why, obviously we know, and I know you all know this, probably more than me, each one of them don't let off 100% of what they will do to the T, is so the other one doesn't copy. But you might find that your 47th president, if he lasts his whole presidency, will take on some things that you were hoping for the new candidate to do. What I actually wanted to say, and I written here yesterday, I've not even looked at these notes, the 2 pages, and I'm already talking, I need to look at the time, is, and it's 17:17 as I look at the time, is that there is going to be change, and there's going to be things that change from now till the 21st a little bit, but there is going to be a change. So yeah, the person might take on things and work on them secondary. So let's say finances is the first thing, or internally to America. And I think that's what a lot of the Americans want. And it would be very silly of whoever was the 47th president not to stick by what would fall under making America great and America being the focus. But then after that, they might get, you know, someone else who runs part of their team to try and be an advocate for climate, for something else. So what I'm trying to say is have hope, because maybe you're looking at something from past, along with, I don't think psychics and tarot readers have been neutral. How do I know this? Is I recently, just actually 2 days ago, I put psychic reading for duck, psychic reading for camel. And I just clicked on their channel and clicked on all the videos, and the titles just showed me for all of them. I could tell you if they are who they were going to vote for, and then obviously who their followers was. And so I'm so thankful that I believe, even though some are quiet, that I've probably got followers from both parties who have stuck through it. Now, if you felt that I've been biased to duck because of my last read when I said Joe Rogan's interview, as I felt it before I'd seen it, and I didn't watch it, or I saw clips after that recording, was a success, then you need to go towards my duck reading with Elon, you know, and I've not watched that till now, but I felt like it was a major unsuccess. Now, obviously, I would have had a couple of people that disagreed with me, but that just shows you that I'm going with what I'm getting, what I feel is echoing either in a positive or negative way, as opposed to who I stand for. And right now, I'm doing this message because America is divided, and some are feeling grief, and I said helplessness, hopelessness, if you remember in my reads, and fear, and some are celebrating. Can we hold space for each other and know that we need to unite? We cannot, even if we've got the president who we wanted in place, we cannot fully rely on them and ignore the people around us. The reason I'm saying that, and I keep pushing this message, the universe will continue to test us if we are going to come together in these recent years, in these years coming. And we've seen it starting, and the energy will pick up last week of November. We need to know that, and it's difficult because it just shows you with the votes that there's people on different timelines of beliefs, but obviously what's come through is needed from Spirit for right now, for where the US is, but also worldwide is, right? It might be the last stunt for this president to do. That could mean he gives it his absolute best shot, okay? And hope they've changed. What they say is their policies I've seen is just really positive talk. One thing I did mention is that I've seen for the Democrats, there was a lot of celebrity kind of endorsing. And this, for me, goes to, I couldn't care less what a celebrity endorses, who a celebrity endorses. I'd be more interested in someone who's maybe, you know, even a scientist who he would endorse or she would endorse. Celebrities mean nothing. And I think who's been voted in, Duck, shows you that people are awake against media. This would never have happened in the past if we were still as we were in the past, not awakened to media. And if we were not awakened to celebrities. At one stage, celebrities were the holy grail. They were everything people thought of. It's no longer like that. So two things where we see we're advanced as humans is we're seeing through the BS of media. We're seeing through the BS of people that are, she can grab a mic, he can grab a mic and sing. Half of them can't sing. Okay, put on a show. Intellectually, on a soul, spiritual level, do they know more than you? Not necessarily. So why are we putting these people on pedestals? But I was thinking about this as I was writing this note, and the day before it was like, I don't know, this only celebrities voting in, endorsing energy actually for me is like, why is it only celebrities on this side mainly? Just remember I'm neutral in what I've just said. And now Duck's one, and it's like I said, it's an expression of the people, the timeline, the country, and it's for a reason, even on a worldwide collective. I mean, even in the UK, was it, somebody might correct me here, was it 20% that voted for Labour? I think people were just fed up with Conservatives and wanted the Tories out, basically, and wanted them out. And so they voted for Labour, but it might not necessarily been for Keir himself. They wanted someone for the people. They wanted someone to improve the finances. I don't think we really knew what Keir stood for. And you'll have to let me know in the comments if you're from the UK watching. As I mentioned, my readings might have a title, but there's often a larger message. And this is what this is about. Holding space for each other. There are flaws in everyone, and that includes the presidential candidates as well. There's flaws in them. How many people do we see step in a role and change? This could even be someone you've had in a team, and suddenly they're the same level as you, but they've been promoted as head of the team, and suddenly they don't talk to you. They're like, you're like, Sue, didn't we always have Wednesday coffee in the morning? She's like, yeah, I'm too busy now. And she's so important with her own coffee and her meetings. People have flaws and people change. But I really feel it's a time where the 47th president will feel like he needs to make that major impact. I don't fear for the US. I actually fear for the countries like Palestine, Lebanon, maybe Ukraine, but those weaker countries in the Middle East because of the allies of the stronger countries. But I think it being this sort of turmoil, he has a role to play, and let's watch that play out for the better of the US and hopefully bring you together. So I think what would be nice in the comments, and I really always wish I had a large channel so messages that like this get out, is you can put who you vote for and you're celebrating. Or maybe put also an additional, either the hearts of white, red and blue, or, you know, we are united. You can express obviously your victory. It's been very tense. I can see that there's been probably platforms that for the past 3 or 4 years, especially last year, been gearing up hate against the other side, whether it's the blues or the reds. And psychics and tarot readers, and I see it right now, what they've been doing is doing like a manifestation on who they want to bring in. And then suddenly, while they've created so much hate and propaganda towards one side or the opposite, it's kind of like, let's come together, let's unite, let's spread love. No more hate, no hate, no hate. You know, that kind of speech. And it's kind of like, you just created all this. Okay, you gained 500,000 followers during this last 2 years. And people don't see it. But I feel like the attraction on this channel are people that can see that. The polls were not as close as I think some people would like, or would have thought. I think some people, this is what I feel, I might be wrong, might have felt like it would just be off by 5 or something. And if I'm not mistaken, is there like 20 or 30 difference? And that's still a small margin. And for me, it's been such a close run up that it actually tells you that the public of the US want the same thing. They're torn on who can bring that in. In a way, it's kind of like so desperate for this improvement that we strongly believe this side or that side. But when you have possibly 2 other candidates, and there's a 70% or for 350, 400 of one candidate, and the other is the less, you know, the 100 or 150, it shows you it's really time for that change. And I think I mentioned it in my other read that it's the new freshness that's needed, but we're not at that timeline. It's the same thing with what I say, you know, we can deliver a message. Some of us will understand it, even though it might not be our belief. And I'll give you an example. There's people on my Liam Payne reading, and some I've had to delete, that truly believe that Diddy had set up Liam Payne to go that way, and Diddy was behind it. Now, for me, I cannot wrap my head around it at all. And because there's that thing going on, there's people that are channeling, saying they're channeling him, and people that are channelers apparently, and they've got like 500k or 300k followers. And then they push in Simon Cowell's name as well. But just think of it. What does Diddy want with Liam Payne? I'm really sorry, but at the time of Diddy, Liam Payne is insignificant for him to think of Liam Payne as a worry or something. And there might be some people that listen to this that are like, no, you're wrong. And because that's what they want to believe, the channelers that, you know, it's too early to channel Liam Payne. And when I did that reading on the 17th, his body was in shock of like, he was in void. And it's too early to channel him, but I channel through spirit. And so no matter what you want to say, those people will only want to see it the way they want to see it. And this is another message. A lot of people think they've woken up, they're awake. But are you? Are you awake, or are you just diving so far into conspiracy theories and people and propaganda that you're not seeing that sometimes, yeah, there's things that's hidden, but sometimes there are facts in stuff. There are things that don't have to have conspiracy theories. There are things that can happen if God or the universe say to happen, and human can go years and years and why did this happen? Why did this happen? Let's do a test. And you won't know unless the universe and God wants you to find it, discover it. Look at Sebastian Rogers' case, which I'm going to do a reading on. From my very first reading, I said, this is going to be a case that's going to pan out. You're going to see so much happen in this case. And it's going to be all about time and destiny. And that's on who should find him and how he should be found. And a lot of people thought he would be found in summer. Now, just so that it doesn't get confusing, I said, if, as people say, he will be found in summer, there's only 2 sets of 3 weeks out of the 14 weeks that give that high, that energy that it could be. 3 weeks, and then there's a period of like 5, 6 weeks, and then there's a 3-week period leading into September, autumn. But I didn't feel it. No one. So there's still those that believe the news, those that are, we're awake, we see through everything, and they're so far into conspiracies. And there's those that use their intellect or are open to seeing, yeah, there is a hidden element of our world and energies that are happening. I'll give you that example through my last psychic predictions, which I wanted to do another one, but because it's not got much views or people wanting the next one, I'm just reluctant. I mentioned in the comments, what are the whiteys? And I had no clue why it was coming through 3 weeks earlier, and then it came again. And I think a couple of us learned. But that just came through, which means that I needed to expose it or bring that to light. Let's go back to this. So the polls were quite, you know, they're not so close as some people, but it might just show that in the next, I think 2028 is going to be interesting, because I think by that time there's going to be a timeline for something very different and new. It's interesting that it was happening on bonfire night, the 5th of November in the UK. Who was out in the garden with the sparklers, or if you had your guy forks. And, you know, what we're seeing basically is the systems and the paradigms are falling, and they're not going to be working the way they are. And that's why I say we need to come together, because it won't be about following rules, paradigms as much. And I think those systems that we have currently in place, leaders, government, etc., need to be tweaked to change. And I think this is going to happen within the next 1 to 10 years. Slowly we're going to see that change. Like I mentioned, the celeb endorsement, I just found that really mad. Let's just take a couple of cards from this. I also think you need to change the way the campaigns are done. It's a bit like I'm going on tour kind of thing with the, pop star kind of thing. Like, it's not educational. It's a bit more like, well, the VPs, I didn't feel it, but it was a bit more like I'm just gonna do a comedy at a theatre at this state, that state, against the Blues, throw in, a couple of things that I'm going to be for America, or against the Reds. And I think it needs to be a bit less than that, less dramatic, that people getting sucked in as well. Just a better way of doing it, as opposed to going on tour or like a concert, like a pop star. I don't know if anyone agrees with me that that's the feeling once, the campaign kind of energy of it. It just takes the focus of what we need focused, where focus is needed, and where the focus of is needed across the world. And I think we saw that. Can you remember how I said there's a void right now in the leadership of the US? There's focus on the elections, but I don't see any really president running the US or doing things in the meantime. It's all about the elections. And I guess the US is lucky because it's strong, but any other country could have really exposed international risk. There was a need to really be careful on that if it wasn't the US. It's kind of like dopamine kicks, and I mean, you might enjoy it, but when you look at it how I'm saying, you might see what I'm saying. But let's see. It's like pulling you into follow, run up attention, run up of energy. And again, it's been tense for both sides, and it's been tense for Reds and Blues, and congratulations to those who voted and got their vote by having the 47th president, and congratulations to the others that didn't get their president, but you'll see some things that you're hoping for come to light. And hopefully you can also open your heart, just like the winners may extend their heart. You need to also extend your hand back. It's not about winners and losers. It's about ultimately what is brought in to change, to bring in that change, to achieve those things that the public need. And you need to come together. You can't remain divided. The civil unrest will remain a bit, but it won't be a war. Remember, I did that reading. Can you find the stillness and know why, whether you voted for this 47th or not, you don't really know what's going to happen. It might even, you might be a blue who voted for blue, but you might end up being like, and remember in my last reading I actually said, some people are going to be, even on an individual level, I didn't just mean the US, you want something so bad, you get it, you're in shock, and you kind of like, I don't know if I want this anymore. And you might be a blue, and you see in like 6 months after January, or a year, depending on a couple of things, one main thing, you might see, you know what, I'm seeing change in the area that was important to me. This isn't that bad. Told to take this one. Temple of Secrets. This is the stillness. 3 and 2, we've got the 5 for change. Secrets, isolation, observation, ritual magic. Stillness. Be within yourself. Be in observation. If you need to take time out, take that time out. This is about really sitting with yourself. Maybe also reflecting on why you feel so dark about, or depressed, or about something. And when it comes to whether you're victorious in this or not, the message here is also now is a time for stillness. There's been so much heightened energy. You might wish to take some stillness and be awakened to the truth within you, to hear your soul's message clearly. It's going to tell you something positive, whether you voted red or blue. You're going to hear some, like, I want to say green light, okay, to seek and hear the truth with open ears. Whatever you speak right now and whatever is spoken through those in the media, whoever you voted for, it needs to be with integrity. And it's been shown now, anyone who does similar to the mainstream media is going to get exposure. You don't want your integrity questioned. To be direct and assertive, but combine your creative and analytical mind to find any answers that are buried within your soul, as opposed to what you hear outside of you. Connecting to your inner light and honor yourself. Maybe you need a 5-minute step back when you feel things are getting too much. But this is really about the cycle of justice returns, and the cycle continues with a lesson learned, and a cycle continues with lessons to be seen. And I don't want to say learned, because people say learned might be like, oh my God, hard lessons. No, I don't mean it that way. There's a cycle here. There's a timeline on why Duck is in at the moment. When I was preparing to do the read just now, Spirit was like, Elvis, something Elvis has said or one of his songs is important for me to say. And I was going to look it up, right? I was going to look up Elvis's quotes, Elvis's songs, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to put a comment. I'm going to say this and then leave it for someone to come in the comments and say, oh, I know exactly which one you're talking about. Could it be this song? Could it be that song? And then I'll also look it up. But there's something a song Elvis has sang, he could have said, that is important right now for post the US elections. Do any of you know what it could be? Come back to yourself, come back united. Remember, I said we're being tested in this moment in time of, can we stay together as humanity? So let's look at our advice. Let's look at the energy between now and the 21st, okay? So there's Duck. Yeah, so there's the conflict. There's the conflict. We see the conflict, okay? But we also see that people coming around willing to surrender, to try and trust in the process, even though they feel so left out in the cold, hopeless and helpless. That's what we're seeing here. By having open hearts, as a Republican, as a Democrat, I mean, the cards can't lie what we're saying. Listening to your soul, we've got the message here, and coming together. Being vigilant, okay, and cutting through the BS. Don't get caught up. This comes after fighting. This comes after fighting. You know, it's Duck that's still standing, but still these are, let's look at the public. You know, here it's feeling very defensive. Don't get caught up in that. Again, if you feel like you're needing to be defensive, you might want to spend some time alone. You might want to seek solace. Know that there's a new chapter that's moving forward, and we can't see everything around it. And there's fear, there's resentment, there's some negative feelings here. It's a challenge, it's a crossroads. I'll tell you something that I'm just getting from Spirit. A lot of people are going to be like, I want to leave America right now. I can't do this next 4 years. That's how desperate some people feel. Look, I can't do it. But there's choices and there's a willingness to come together. You have the choice to leave if you need to. Obviously, there's visas somewhere else. But believe in the goodness. Believe in what's gone is gone, and justice will prevail. Karmic scales will come to balance. We need to be patient. And again, Spirit says, come together. Feel the passion and the unity of coming together. Okay. Now I want to pull the last messages of guidance from Spirit. If you enjoyed this, please do give me a like, subscribe. And as I mentioned, I'm just giving you a message from a higher perspective, told to look at the bottom of the deck. It's the new start, but it's also a new way of seeing through truths. Seeing through truths. And a message will be coming that's crystal clear. Okay? Expect that message. It might be the inauguration, but I think we're going to have changes before then. It's a time to celebrate, okay? It's a time to come together with a new perception on the way you see things as well if needed. Look at these cards, they're blue. This deck can be a bit blue, but look at it. It's not a time of ending. Democrats might feel doomsday, might feel it's an ending, while others are celebrating, might feel really heartbroken. But there's a message that's going to be clear. And you need to understand, even if you didn't vote for Duck, he's working for the whole of the people. It's not going to be like, I know you understand this, but I'm just bringing it to light because we get lost. Unless someone says something, we forget a messaging. He's going to do what's best, what he apparently sees best for the people. Whether he's going to be integrous in that, it seems like it. He's not going to say, I'm going to do this just for the states that voted for me. It's going to be across the board. And again, it will go back to the goals that you aligned to are probably the same as the other party. Told to pull this card. This card. Crystal Kingdom, slowing down, making sure, number 10, the completion, psychic debris, materialism. Again, it's connecting to yourself, isn't it here? It's about, again, spirituality. It's your thinking, it's your mind, it's your crown chakra. Don't get clouded. That's what I feel here. A lot of the message is probably why I'm called to do the read. And come back to this because it's got a wider message. Release the expectation of perfection. And a flower can bloom in a balanced environment and will still bloom in a balanced environment. Let's just look here. I just want to see what crystal this holds. Tanzanite. Tanzanite. Our Mother Earth is a constant state of creation. Crystalline structures are found all over the planet, from small pockets in bedrock to underground cave systems that once entered seem like an endless fortress. Their growth is constant evolution. Remember how I said what's happening is for the constant time, the current timeline and ascension of us. Some of us are beyond that. Some of us might be more in a timeline of camel, whether it's behind or forward or whatever. Constant evolution, continuity serving the planet with their transmuting energetic presence. Volcanic eruptions create the environmental cleanser. Remember I said about November and that psychic predictions about electricity, fire, rumbles, environmental cleanser and purification, stone black obsidian, which easily clears negativity. That's why I looked at the crystal. I was asked to look at the crystal because I felt like obsidian would be great, and also not clear quartz. And I don't know why I'm getting also snowflake obsidian you can have as well. But here, it's only fitting that the Mother Earth produces her own environmental cleanser, such as a grand scale demanding respect during its process. Earth Mother Jaya is never in a rush to complete a process. There is always an earthly system that is followed in divine order to achieve an earthly cycle and equilibrium. I mean, what did we start with? And look at what Spirit's giving us. Without the interruption of man, the earth's beauty can be witnessed through pristine waters, and nature thrives to harmonic balance. But like the volcano ready to erupt with hot lava, emotions are bubbling to the surface. Strong and resilient ascendant masters recognize the lack of personal harmony. Rushing to complete plans or become anxious, impatient in your dreams or what you want to do because they're not happening fast for you or not happening is only going to force mistakes and errors in you trying to achieve them. But what I think this, in our circumstances also meaning is only going to cause more unrest and divide. And that is going to only take the country longer, which will be collectively, but also individually, to come together and move forward like the universe is pushing us to, together. So where was I? Something about achieving goals, right? Yeah. Just like the crystal growing and forming beneath the surface, with divine plan, you must devise your own plan and move forward with action. So if you need, take a few days out right now. It's done, it's over. But this is what we have, and I hope in some way it can, I don't know, it delivers a message in a positive way for both sides and for you individually, whether you're celebrating, whether you needed a glimmer of hope that what is needed is in this read as well. Take care of yourselves and stay blessed, and bye for now.